Hey guys, this is James, and today we're talking about the execution flow of the codes shown here. Contains both the asynchronous code and synchronous code. Which one will be called first? Which one will be the next? And as we said, there's two concepts here. The first one is the synchronous code. So what's the synchronous code? That's something in JavaScript with async, await, something like promise or set timeout. All those are synchronous code. And aside from it, yeah, there's also other asynchronous code, but the code will always write those are synchronous code. And the other concept is the microtask and the macrotask. So what is the microtask? Something if we define by using promise, async, await, those are microtasks. And the other one, including the asynchronous code, set timeout, they are all the macro tasks. So the rules in JavaScript is that always the macro task first, then goes to the micro task, then goes to another macro task, and goes to another then goes to another macro task, etc. So it should be first macro task, and then immediately it will run the following micro task, and then the next macro task. So how can we really divide actually, or define the different macro tasks? It is by, if there's something like set timeout, it will directly goes to the next macro task. That's why I load here already, the next macro task. And you see here, there's another set timeout. So I also load the other macro task. So it is like a way to separate it from the current macro task. So let's get started to see the codes here. The first one is the declaration of the functions, but then we go to this one. So the first one we should output is script start, and the next one set timeout. So it belongs to the next macro task, and then we see that okay, it has like 10. The interval seems a little bit long compared to this one, so we just take loss of that, and then we go to the next one. The promise is synchronous code, but actually first it will really execute until before prior to then. All these kind of things is if they are still synchronous. So output should be promised one, and until then it will be put in the microtask queue. Okay, and then the rest we will not see right now. And then it will goes to this code. Async one actually refers to the next functions. So what we got here is before the await is they are still synchronous. So we will, when you run this one, we will get async one start, and then we will get async two. So we will call because it's still before the await. It will still be called. So then we will directly call this function async two, and then we see await. Then we will put it in another microtask. Put it in the microtask queue, the same microtask queue, and then the rest we will not call right now. Go to the next script end. So the next one should be script end. So the first macro task, everything has been finished. So we have to deal with the micro ones. And so we have two micro ones, right? The first one is here. And the second is here. And which one should be run first? Actually, usually we can see it in this way, but it's not so accurate. Later I will explain that. Since this one is the first we encounter here, so this one usually should be first. So we can have promise to, and then we encounter another set timeout. As I say, it should belong to another macro task. So we just put it here. Then we still have another micro task here. So it will execute until here. Sync. The only thing left are the two macro tasks defined or set by the two set timeout. Which one will run first? The interval, the timeout here. This one is 10, this one is 1. So we can really think, maybe, right? Since this one we have to wait a little bit longer, so it should be the last macro task. So this one should be really output the first. So the next macro task, we think it should be this one. And the last one should be the one we have to wait for 10 milliseconds. So this one should be the next. Let's see the result. Okay, we have put everything here. Script start, promise 1, async 1 start, async 2, script end, promise 2, async 1 end, set time 111, set time out. Exactly the thing we have analyzed. So that's basically the execution flow of those codes. But something I really have to note that is when it comes to the execution flow of a microtask, it really depends on the browser, on the environment to see that which will run first. Why we see something like that? Because if we really put another thing, for instance, rather than here, so we create another microtask. And as we see that actually first the output is promise 3 rather than async 1 end. So how to see that? Actually, we cannot really predict so well the order of execution. It really depends on the environment or the browsers or other things. So the thing very important is the first. The order of the execution should be macro, micro, macro, micro, macro, micro. That's for sure. The second thing is that sometimes we cannot predict how the micro task works. We have to really see from case to case. The second point is how to define different macro tasks from each other. It should be something like set timeout, those kind of things happens. Those kind of web API used, then we can really see that, okay, it's another macro task. It's not the same ones. So that's for today, and thank you for watching.